Welcome to NC Political Tea, the show where North Carolina's political scene gets served piping hot, grassroots style. We're here to shake up the status quo with unapologetically conservative takes and a whole lot of Southern charm. From the halls of Congress to under the dome, we're exposing the deals, the drama, and the dirt that the mainstream media won't touch. Who's fighting for your freedom? Who's selling out to the woke mob? And who's about to get roasted? No fluff, no filters, and absolutely no time for spineless politics. Just bold Republican commentary, sharp analysis, and enough sass to make the left squirm. So grab your sweet tea or something stronger, and let's dive into the hottest headlines and juiciest scandals rocking the Tar Heel State. This is NC Political Tea, where the truth always gets served.
But he's a terrific person, and he wasn't getting the support from people that I thought. You know, he's done a very good job. Crime is down 25% in D.C. During his period of time. I'm very disappointed in that, but I have so many different things that I'm doing now with the trade. You know, I'm one person. I can only I can only lift that little phone so many times in a day.
Okay. So there was Trump today. He had to backtrack on his nomination for Martin, and we know why. I mean, the number one political news story in the country right now, and it has been for the last 48 hours, has been Tom Tillis for all the wrong reasons.
Well, it's not new to us in North Carolina. It's new to America. They're just now seeing the Tillis that we've seen for years. So this is not surprising. What is surprising is what had to take place earlier this afternoon or late this evening when he had to throw out the endorsement for NCGOP Chair Jason Simmons because of all the backlash that is happening to Tom Tillis.
Interesting. And you tell me why that is. Look, here's Junior saying, you know, thank you for self-immolating, basically. There is no Republican. Don Jr., you're right. There is no Republican that would vote for Merrick Garland and a sundry of other far-left Marxists that would not vote for Martin.
Except Tom Tillis.
Ned Ryan, he's aching for a primary challenger. He could hardly find a Biden nominee he didn't like. He went from, Blinken. Samantha
Powers. Yeah. Yeah.
God.
But here's the real hypocrisy. He totally loves Kash Patel, who also took up for the J6ers, but will not stand for Ed Martin. To me, that is the biggest hypocrite. But the tell was today that Michael Whatley had to call him. There's no way that didn't happen.
Okay, so tell the audience who doesn't follow, you know, they follow, you know, congressional politics or state politics, but maybe not party politics. Tell us who Jason Simmons is right quick and who Whatley is.
Okay, so Jason Simmons is the current North Carolina state chairman of the party, of the Republican Party. And formerly that was Michael Whatley's job. And he handpicked Jason Simmons to be put in this position. So because of the fallout that has happened to Tillis, because Michael Whatley is Tillis's little lackey, and so is Jason Simmons. This evening around 4:35 o'clock, quickly actually, Trump had to put out a notice that he was endorsing Jason Simmons because of the backlash here in North Carolina tied to Tom Tillis, Michael Whatley, and Jason Simmons.
Why is there always a shit show here in North Carolina? Let me bring you guys back. We had a very rocky landing with our gubernatorial nominee. And that was purportedly, there was some underhandedness with the RNC or the state party kind of jerking the rug out from him. So Trump's got to be sick and damn tired of hearing about bullshit going on here in North Carolina that can tank nationally Republican standing.
Well, I think what's really happening is people are being exposed to the unorganized, shady things that have gone on here. So let's go back a little bit. We're going to talk about this evening on a space specifically about Tom Tillis.
So the space is at 9:15. So guys, if you're, if you're in and out of this, whatever, set a reminder. 9:15. We have a space with exclusives on Tom Tillis. And the very, very important thing is how goes North Carolina? Goes the Senate in 2026. This is pivotal. So we're not just talking about what's going on in little old the Tar Heel state.
No, but I think the most important thing to reconsider is like there's been shady politics in North Carolina forever, but Tom Tillis has always been around them. For instance, in Trump's first term, Tom Tillis begged for Trump to pardon Robin Hayes. Who is Robin Hayes? Robin Hayes was in the NCGOP before Michael Whatley and was convicted of federal wire fraud. And everyone knows that he was part of embezzlement. They won't say it out loud, but I will.
So we're going to talk more about the party politics on the space.
But you're asking what's going on here. It goes way back.
It does go way back, but it goes back to directly affect our elections. And fresh in our memory, right, is a gubernatorial race, and that could have tanked the swing state, particularly since Helene came in and we were all very worried and worked feverishly to make sure that we stabilized North Carolina, which we did to a great degree. I don't think we've gotten the thanks that we actually deserve. But anyway, so that's the deal. Now, the good news is that there is a silver lining.
Oh yeah. Great lining. She's going to bust some chops. Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think Tillis's take is going to be on her?
He's going to have no choice but to succumb. Even if he doesn't like her, he can't make a no-go twice. He knows he's in a big bad way right now. And it's not just that he's in a bad way in the Trump vision. He's in a bad way with the constituents in North Carolina. And I want to just say this so people understand. We have time here. Filing isn't until December. People usually start running the roads right now, but we have time. But I think this is a great pick. I think, I've met her. She's very nice. She's probably one of the most humble people I've ever met. She's tiny, much more tiny than people realize. She made it. She came with Tulsi Gabbard to Morganton, North Carolina, and was just gracious and wonderful.
Wow. Well, I think it's going to be great. I mean, it's definitely controversial. I love the woman. I mean, that's a badass bitch right there.
Yeah, I love that she gets on the 5 after whatever the show is she's on, and she just hammers that Democrat.
That's a Tarloff.
Yeah.
I do enjoy that very much.
Probably having a party tonight.
Can you imagine? And so this is kind of funny. I mean, wait, not this, but hold on. Yes, guys, I'm still battling with this stuff. Don't forget, Liz Cheney was taught a lesson. And this is kind of what I think everyone's saying is that we have got to teach Tom Tillis a lesson. I mean, when you go online, guys, the guy's being dragged. It's not just online. I think it's on every conservative news program, Fox included, America's Real Voice, Newsmax. The guy's being dragged. So what's behind all this? Do you have any feeling about it?
Well, he deserves to be dragged. He literally was one of the most important votes we needed on that committee to get Ed Martin passed. And the fact that he said, if it was any other job other than DC, I'd be fine with it. What an arrogant jerk. And honestly,
that means there's something shady in DC that he didn't want anyone to know about and that Martin's going to investigate.
Well, it just backfired on him because Martin got picked for 3 different positions. He was announced later today. He'll handle pardons. He'll handle 2 other positions. One of them is pretty, get into your face in your business position. I'm sorry, I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. I read it very quickly, but he's going to take 3 assistant attorney positions, statutory attorney positions, and he's going to get what is coming to him if there's something there.
I find it delicious. But speaking of delicious, another thing that happened in DC is that there's a new nominee there was a Surgeon General nominee that was pulled, and then a new one was named. So Trump dropped his original pick, and he elevated a MAHA influencer by the name of Dr. Casey Means. And he's really signaling a bold pivot to like an anti-establishment health agenda focused on like root cause and wellness. She's Stanford educated, et cetera. But I'm going to put up, this is kind of a crazy announcement. Here's how he made the announcement. And then we're going to get Representative Johnathan Almond, who is our de facto MAHA representative in the General Assembly, to kind of weigh in.
Practicing physician. So,
oh, wait. Guys, I'm telling you,
Explain why you picked her to be
Well,
America's
yeah,
top doctor.
because Bobby thought she was fantastic. Because Bobby thought she was fantastic. She's she's a brilliant woman who went through Stanford, and as I understand it, she basically wanted to be an academic as opposed to a surgeon. I think she graduated first in her class at Stanford, and Bobby really thought she was great. I don't know her. I listened to the recommendation of Bobby. I met her yesterday, and
okay, I don't know about you guys, but I kind of wish that we had a better reason from the president about why he put in this pick. What say you, Johnathan?
Listen, I'm just coming in this conversation myself. It's been so busy in Raleigh the last 2 weeks. The days of going down all the topics rabbit holes are kind of tough these days. So I'm kind of on the fence here. I mean, I heard the press conference that I sit you, Sloan, and I mean, she's saying all the right things. I mean, those are the things for people that are in the MAHA movement they want to hear. I mean, I want to hear you talking about the real health items, the food, the chemicals, the pesticides. I want to hear it all. But the other side of the coin is, I'm building relationships along this journey, and a few people that I have made good relationships with, and one of those is my boy's functional medicine doctor, and he wasn't very impressed with her. So um I've become friends with Mary Bowden, and she didn't have great things to say about her. She was helping me on my ivermectin journey. I know she's been in the trenches for a minute. Yep, there she is.
Mary's been angry
Yeah.
at
And
this.
I respect Mary.
Yeah, I do too. And I texted you last night, like as soon as I found out about Casey Means. And I know her because she is an influencer. She's on a lot of shows. And so at first I thought that she was just like you in your positions. But it looks like, Johnathan, she's a little bit different. And when I saw Mary sounded off, I had to put this up. But let's take a look at her in an interview. I mean, this is really her, what she said on every show, which I think we're all going to like.
Health epidemic, which is what we have in this country. I mean, health is getting destroyed in the United States, which you don't really talk about because it's not profitable to heal in this country. It's profitable to keep people sick and then drug them, cut them, and bill them, which is what we learn how to do. And really what we have here is a disconnection crisis. And the healthcare crisis is one branch of that tree. We're disconnecting the body into 100 separate parts and not seeing as a unified system. And we're disconnecting the body from the environmental conversation, which actually we're really one and the same. We are totally connected to nature, and in destroying nature through the pesticides and the way we're treating animals, our health is a reflection of what we're doing to the earth.
Okay. The code words for me were environmental, earth.
We're as one.
Sure.
Chakra.
I mean, but those are important things, right? I'm not sure how to say her last name. It was RFK's vice president pick, Nicole.
Yes, Sheridan. Have you said that?
Shanahan, isn't it?
Yes, I believe so. So, I mean, when you think about Earth, right, okay, we're putting a ton of pesticides on the earth. We're spraying, chemicals in the air that who knows what that's doing for us breathing it in, what that's doing to our environment. I mean, the PFAs in the water, are the plastics and everything. So like, I understand that. I'm not as, I mean, I don't wear shoes outside, right? Like I think grounding is a real thing, but and maybe that's some more of the left leaning stuff, but it sounds right. But when Nicole Shaheen is saying that she's concerned about it too, and I mean, I hear her story. She has a child that's vaccine injured as well. So I mean, I think it's so hard to know, right? Isn't that what it is today? Is like we all have been in the trenches for a while and really know what's going on, and kind of can see through some of the psyops that are going on. But man, if you turn it off for a little bit, it's so hard to know what's up and what's down. And I think that, the thing that I'm learning the most through all this is we kind of just got to let it play out, and we got to keep doing what we can do. Right. I know the things that I can control is having conversations in the General Assembly, and these are conversations that people have never had before, right? So, as things progress, and, we might not get like, Representative Winslow and myself and some others were on the food diet bill, right? And it didn't move in the General Assembly, but then we had movement on the federal level, so it feels like a win. So
Yeah.
I wish things moved at a much faster pace. I've been waiting for this stuff for years, really since my kids were born. And it's hard when people aren't on the same level as you as far as being involved and really being able to dig through the things. I mean, people are caught up living their life. Like I was drove home from Raleigh today, got home, had a few minutes and then had to run to Fort Mill to my boy's doctor's appointment. Just got home at 7 and then trying to catch up on everything. So, I mean, it's such a hectic world. The grind can kind of keep people's head in the sand on things. And I think what we can do is you might not agree with what Trump or Robert Kennedy have done to this point, but what else do we have to besides to trust them and
Yeah.
but trust but verify, right?
Look,
We've got to keep pushing. We've got to keep having conversations. We've got to keep talking. And I think that people are hearing what we're saying.
But you know what? Your ivermectin bill would never happen.
Yeah,
Have happened.
let's talk about that, because the Democrats are already poking fun at us for that.
Sure. Oh yeah, I saw it. But that's the thing, right? Like that's what you want to say. And this bill, I wasn't trying to make it about COVID. This bill this medication has been around since 1970. It was approved for human use in 1987. It won a Nobel Prize in 2015. And this was all before COVID, right? And everyone has such a short memory that they want to overlook all of that stuff and just look at, what has transpired in the last few years. And that's all they wanted to do was try to bait me into this conversation and, get me to say something where they could clip it and then use it on a mailer or an ad later on. But it's just like, what's so funny is one of the people that was grandstanding during this bill, there's no facts. Oh, this medication is unproven and all this stuff. And it's like, well, where are your numbers? It's unsafe. Where are the numbers then? She spoke later on about some gun issues and she had every single data point. But when it came to our conversation about ivermectin, she didn't have anything. This medication is safer than the main drug in Tylenol. Like, I don't understand what the big pushback is. And, Robert Reeves wants to say, well, a doctor should be involved in everything and there should be a prescription. So how do you feel about the 30 other medications since 2000 that required a prescription that now don't?
But these are people that believe that puberty blockers, which we know sterilize children and have a black box warning for that. It has a black box warning. I didn't put it on there. You didn't put it on there. They think that sterilizing children is A-okay, but something that's basically inert is problematic. And it's all political to them. And look,
isn't that interesting? In one instance, it's called chemical castration, and then in another instance, it's just hormone blockers, so these kids can figure out who they really are.
Well, wait, they never call it what it really is. Remember back when road rage was happening and it's anabolic steroids? They don't ever go back to the real root of what it is, because now we know anabolic steroids cause cancer.
Those are cross-sex hormones, which they also give. It's very scary. So
and that's, I kind of say this point too. What was so right, because we did House Bill 606 this week as well, and that gives people who detransition a longer statute of limitation for their body to develop and understand, hey, actually there is malpractice, and again, we're leaving that up to the courts to decide. But it's like they're so supportive of helping these people when they transition, but if there's an issue and they want to detransition, well, then it's
oh, hell no.
Sorry about your luck.
So what I want to do is I want to do like a post-mortem on the discussion that the Democrats had, because this is so instructive. So we have a video from the hearing, and I'm going to break it down at each point, and we're going to go over how they're getting it wrong. And by the way, you can extrapolate this to every discussion and every argument they proffer on everything, because it's just so ridiculous. So here you are. Here's our cute, sweet little Johnathan. Oh, not right here.
I too had a breast reduction done at 18. There was clear responsibilities that I had to take care of myself, and there were clear, Lord, I lost the word. There were clear facts that would happen bodies, whatever.
Okay, so let's just stop right
I'm
there.
gonna
She was a grown-ass woman at the time, and so this
Who
is
had
something
elective surgery.
I noticed that they did is they a couple of times, and again, we're going to go through these kind of fast because I want to take too much of your time, but they kept speaking about this bill as though it were adults. I want you to know, I have videos of this. Duke doctors have admitted to giving puberty blockers to 8-year-olds. They're on a stage called Tanner 2. Tanner 2 is when adolescence could technically start. Believe it or not, it's 8. It used to be 10, but it's 8. She admitted, Deanna Atkins is her name, on video to giving children 8 years old puberty blockers that will sterilize them and then waiting till they're 10 or 12 to get introduced cross-sex hormones. This can happen. It does happen. It's manipulative as hell on the parents' part because, Jonathan, you probably know this. They are targeting low-income families for this, where the doctors can come in with a white coat and manipulate.
Minority families too.
That's right. That's right. And so she goes on, and I kind of thought this was funny.
I'm here to tell you, if you think you're going to stop people from being transgender or following their real life self, this is not going to do it. It's not going to change anything. What it's going to do is make you guys feel like you won some kind of war. And there is no war. That war is on somebody else's side. Most of the matter of fact, every transgender person I know just wants to go and live their life. And for you and us,
we don't want predators masquerading as doctors and coercing, telling parents, because I have another video, same team at Duke, that they're going to talk to parents and coerce them into selecting the right puberty for a child to go through.
It's crazy. And I mean, so this bill does address, right, like the story that really, made me want to do something about this was somebody who they were receiving the medication, the hormone blockers, whenever they were under 18, but they did have, the procedures done when she turned 18. But the statute of limitations for that was 3 years or 4 years if there was an instrument left in the body, right? So from 18.
But they're doing it. Let me tell you, if they're waiting to do it at 18, the problem is that when you're giving puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, here's what they don't tell you, Jonathan, that the male scrotum shrivels up so much and is so deformed that it is a mandatory surgery. It's a mandatory. So they're getting the therapy that is mind screwing them. They're getting the cross-sex hormones. They have no other alternative than when they get at the age of majority. So the mind screwing and the manipulation has taken place well before the surgery.
That's right. That's right. And the Prisha Mosley was the case that I heard about, and doctors told her that she couldn't get pregnant, and then she did get pregnant. Well, sure, that happens a lot of times, but they also, when she got pregnant, she started to get milk, because there was still glands there and had no way to express it, and it turned into this really long process, and she has a case. So the case, her medical malpractice case, she's out of the statute of limitation for that. But the other aspect of the case is conspiracy and conspiracy to defraud, which is, I believe, is a higher level to get to than medical malpractice, right? So the body changes tremendously from 18 to 28, especially for women. And right. So you want to, act like that can't happen. So what, we just want to allow people, if this is what it's all about. If there's a case for malpractice, they should be able to be heard.
The law's on the books already.
Right? Exactly. And this doesn't change the standard to get to malpractice. It just opens the window up so that, someone can get to the point where their brain's fully developed, their body's fully developed, and they can see there's a problem here.
So you're telling me they don't want that? The Democrats don't want that?
Oh, listen, I got more. I got your favorite person coming up in a second. You want to hear from her? This is
stop debating their lives.
I'm a lawyer, but you probably may not know that before I became a legislator, I worked on these exact issues as a lawyer doing medical malpractice. No other type of health care is singled out and treated differently
And I'll
in our
tell you
medical
why.
malpractice statutes. There is no medical reason to single out gender-affirming health care in
Okay.
this way.
Yeah. Let me come in here. There is no other thing that you can do surgery on that doesn't have a diagnostic. This is doing surgery for a mental health issue. That's why there's nothing else. So what she's talking about, I'm a better lawyer than her. I could argue out of that.
Gender-affirming care is not new, and if there was some special medical reason to have an extended liability window, we'd almost certainly know about it by now.
Oh,
Without any compelling medical reason for this change, it's hard to interpret this bill as anything other than the latest in the recent efforts to restrict treatment and to marginalize transgender people.
How are you restricting treatment when you're offering to extend it?
you're not. So she says there's no medical, nothing in the world wrong. Brazil, UK, France, and look at our own HHS reveals. Looky here. These look like reasons for extra liability to me, guys.
Yeah. Well, and this is, right? That's what I don't understand. Oh, this stuff is so great. Everything's up to snuff. And then you hear these stories. And it's like, oh, well, we're not, sorry about your luck. That's not good enough.
It's really sad to me to see how much they will twist a child to get them there. And then when they come back from the brink of, opening up and realizing what's really happened, now they don't want to help them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
right.
they left the club, and that's it, right? Like, I mean, look at on the simplest level, right? Look at how people who decide that they're not Democrats anymore, it's like
me.
You totally flip the script. I mean, it's
a lot of people don't talk to me anymore because I'm not a Democrat.
Tough luck, Charlie, right?
Right.
Next.
Whether you're a girl or a guy, because that applies both ways. So tough luck, Charlie.
So what are the chances this is going to pass in the Senate? Because the Senate, I mean, they are hardcore bought and paid for. You got Nathan Babcock, who is the guy who's in charge of raising money for the Senate caucus, the leader over there. I mean, you say one thing about healthcare, buddy, he is on your ass on it.
He was on ours.
Your ass. Yeah, he doubles double duty as a lobbyist. I mean, and a lot of other people do. All this
social media influencer.
Someone call it an asshole, but anyway, he got on me the other night about I put up something about Benton Story's bill, and woo, he was making an example out of Sloan just for having an opinion. But the reason is there's a hypersensitivity in the Senate because I believe a lot of those guys and girls get big money from the Hospital Association, pharma, and others who would like to create a chronic condition at the age of 3 to treat in perpetuity rather than having them happen at 30, right?
Yeah.
Special interests. How hard is this bill going to be to get passed through the Senate?
Well, I don't want to overspeak or overstep my boundaries because, I have been making some great relationships on the Senate side, and I am new, and I can, be naive about things, but I'm hopeful about a lot of this stuff. I think that people in Raleigh understand where we are in the arc of history, and I think that people are really starting to hear what the heartbeat is of the constituents. So I've made some great relationships on the Senate side, and quite a few people that have actually reached out to me after I was on another podcast and was telling my story about my boys and stuff. There are people up there more than you might think that are aligned with the MAHA movement, aligned with a lot of the things that we talk about. So, ultimately it comes down to leadership, and all we can do is, or all I can do is continue to advocate and have conversations up there, and time is going to tell. And the thing is, we're all paying attention. It's not like this stuff's going to happen and y'all are going to be watching and the people are going to be watching. So 2026 is right around the corner. So
we are, but we've been to this rodeo before. But something just occurred to me is that, you know, who would benefit from this, as terrible as it sounds, trial lawyers. So maybe
There's a bunch of those in the Senate.
yeah, well, not only that, but there's a lot of money that comes from them. Maybe we can say, look, you've got to pass our boy's bill, and the trial lawyers are going to be happy. You may not get as much from pharma, but you can just balance it out.
Yeah, well, we did have a Democrat, Charles Smith, vote for this bill, and I come to find out, I believe he does malpractice suits. So,
well, there you have it.
Some things for everyone, and everyone wins.
That's right.
So, and you would think that.
But I'm happy to do this, but I'm going to continue to stay, in this MAHA lane. I think it is very appropriate for the journey that I've been on, and I think that we're going to continue to get wins. And we unfortunately we just got to let some of this stuff play out. It has been less than 6 months, and I know that we are ready for lightning speed, and I believe that we're going to have reconciliation. It's just. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
Well, I'm glad. Okay. So great. Well, I loved having you on again. I mean, you did great. I thought that you were very steady-handed. I mean, you really took, let me just play Deb Butler's. Let me just close it out. Do you remember what you said? She was very fiery. Actually, yes, this is what I need, because I was very proud of Destin Hall, Leader Hall. You're going to love this, Margot, if you haven't seen it already. So,
but more broadly, it is targeting transgender people. Again, this is not an isolated piece of legislation. 606 is part of a relentless pattern.
Oh, gosh.
It's a pattern. Over the past 5 years in North Carolina, we have seen an onslaught of bills aimed directly at trans kids, trans adults, trans athletes, trans families, trans literature.
How do you have a
and now the doctors and the counselors who care for them. Let's call this what it is. It's a campaign of cruelty, all dressed up in the language of policy.
The lady is impugning the motives of the members, and the chair's allowed a lot of this to go on the last couple of the weeks. And Representative Butler, the chair's not picking on you because the chair's let it go. The chair's not going to do that anymore. It's one thing to say it's a right-wing or a left-wing motive. It's another say this is intentional cruelty. The chair's not going to allow it. The chair's going to allow members to debate, as the chair's done in the past, and go on and on, but the chair's not going to allow that anymore.
Good.
I really appreciate it. I mean, Speaker Hall, and again, this is, when you're in the minority and, all you can do is get up and grandstand, right? Like, we all take it on top of the head a lot, just because the whole point, I think, is to say this stuff to try to get a response, to get us emotional, to get us to say something again where they can clip it and use it in 26 and try to frame us, how they're already going to frame us anyway. I don't know if Representative Echeverria was watching. I was just on the phone with him before, but I mean, like, again, no matter what happens, if they don't have truth, they'll just make something up. And, they did that to him in 22, whenever they made a fake mugshot of him. Could you imagine if anybody else would have made a fake mugshot of a black man that had never been arrested, right?
Like,
or it's okay because it was Roy Cooper and it was for the supermajority seat. Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah, well, we can't imagine, because they did it they've done it to a lot of black men in North Carolina politics.
Oh, yes. Yes, they have. So, all right. Well, thank you again for coming on, and we're going to keep an eye on your bills, and we're very excited about the MAHA agenda coming here. And, we're going to really cover crossover, and hopefully some of these bills are going to cross over, and we're going to have a big change here.
And you're going to see some folks from X, I think, next week coming down to the legislature. So welcome them. They're coming to say hi to you. We'll get some information on that.
I love it. My door's always open. Thank y'all so much for your time. I always appreciate the platform, and I appreciate everything that y'all are doing. Thank you for your hard work.
Always champion you. When election time comes, we'll have lots of spaces too.
Excellent. Yep. Thank y'all so much.
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Love the puppy in the background.
All right. So we have Sean on the right. He's going to be co-hosting the rest of the show with us. Get ready, get set. Hi.
Hey.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you're echoey.
Your hair's gotten long.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I know. I need a haircut. I did my best. We hairsprayed it down. I look like Jesse Waters on Fox
I
News.
think it was good. Yeah, I have to tell you guys something. The last show that we did, the last 2 shows, I've had straightened hair, and I
I wore red. It's weird.
Well, no, I had straightened hair, but let me tell you what happened. I had about a dozen or maybe even more people message me directly, and they were men. They did not like straight hair. They found it distracting, and one person said I looked unprofessional. So you know what? I'm not going to straighten my damn hair for y'all anymore. I'm going to leave it. Let it go.
Honestly, natural is in. Natural is in. We like it. I like it.
Sean, you look like you got a tan. You've been busy?
Well, I know that we talked about this on Punchbowl. You guys should see my setup. I have so many things, like my iPad up with my notes, all the like my monitor, my camera, everything else is a mess over here. We talked about this on Punchbowl. I am, as you know, I have to be careful with the wording here, but my career shifted last year. So we are on a trajectory of entrepreneurship. And so we've launched this, t-shirt brand. I'm working on a couple of other t-shirt brands, but I also just bought a boat.
I know. That is so weird.
I called my dad and I was like, hey, I have this idea. And I'm thinking he's going to tell me like, dude, you're on something. Like you've got a finite amount of resources. You can't be going out and buying a boat. But I had this idea. I'm like, Lake Norman is right here. I looked and checked all the rental rates. So I'm starting a boat rental business-ish with one. We'll see how it goes. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'll sell the boat and we'll figure something else out. So I've been out on the water quite a bit. That is why I
like you do have a tan.
You really need it. We're going to talk about tariffs. We always love to have you on. I mean, we bring you on as intellectual heft, quite frankly, when we're talking about things, economy, etc. And I wrote a piece. We just published a piece. Let me see if I can share this. And you read it, and I think you've got some thoughts on it. So hang on one second. Let me see where I can get it. Okay, so there's been a lot of talk about tariffs. Last time you were on, we talked about tariffs. And the market is shaken. I think that a lot of business owners, small business owners, and industries alike are having a little bit of fear. What are your thoughts? I really related it here because, guys, we're hearing a lot about the furniture industry, which North Carolina has a lot of, and textiles.
Yep.
What do you think about this?
Yeah, I actually think that it's super interesting to bring North Carolina as a state with the specific industries that we do thrive in into this discussion, because I think there are actually some unique pieces here that we should discuss. So I think first, what I would say is I see the tariff situation differently. And I think that I see it differently because I went through it on the retailer side during Trump's first admin when he did this to China the first time. So I experienced this as a retailer, and we did pass cost increases on to our consumers, and you guys did pay an extra 49 cents for a t-shirt, the screen printed t-shirt. But we also moved manufacturing back to the US. Here's what I'll say about it. I think that your article is absolutely correct. Asterisk. That it's all based on economic theory, like economic logic. If things play out this way, as they have in the past, or as you would expect them to, yeah, I think that people will experience, particularly like North Carolina small business owners will experience some hardship.
But it's uncharted territory. It's uncharted territory, and and I know that activity in the market is predicated on confidence, right? On not having the shit scared out of you, right? And I don't think that a lot of business owners have that. And I think, and I wonder what you think.
The market stuff. But what about the small business?
No, they don't. They're getting a lot of excess costs, et cetera. I mean, they are. And I'm wondering if it's scaring the crap out of everyone because he wants to put a tariff on everything. Now he's talking about films, the film industry, right? It seems to be a panacea for everything that's ailing us economically. And it frankly is a little concerning.
Well, let's talk about it like this. I'm going to try and give you like the short-term rundown. First of all, small business owners are the ones that have an advantage here. It's not the conglomerates like Target, Walmart, Amazon that have the advantage. The short-term advantage. So you hear a lot of people talk about, well, we're going to have a short-term. In the short term, it's going to be, we're going to have some difficulties. In the long term, XYZ, it's going to be better. I disagree. I think that in the short term, small business owners have an advantage, and that is two things. One, competitive pricing. Two, increased demand. So I gave this example the last time that we talked about this on this podcast.
Retail, right?
But let's just talk about cars, for example. Let's just talk about cars, because I think this is you can use the exact same thing in the furniture business. So we could use furniture.
Okay.
But I'm going to use cars to make my point. Trump tariffs foreign-made cars. So your Volvos, your BMWs that are made overseas that they bring in, now they've got a 20% tariff on them. Do you think BMW can still sell and Volvo can still sell? Do you think they can raise the price of their vehicles from $80,000 to $100,000? I'm again rough math here, to $100,000 and still compete with Lincoln?
No,
because our supply chains are so diversified today. But now let's talk. Now, if you use this on a small business perspective, so I'm going to take that concept and I'm going to scale it down. So you have your guy down the street, in your local NC neighborhood who literally builds dressers and tables, sells them at Gibson Mill here in Charlotte, etc. He's using maybe some materials from overseas, maybe some materials sourced domestically, etc. So he may receive a 20% cost increase on his the metal legs that he uses on the table, but he is still at an advantage because he's not being tariffed at the same rate that your fully assembled IKEA dresser is coming in. So the prices on those IKEA dressers are going to go up, or they're going to stay where they are, and IKEA is going to assume the costs. They're going to level it out. But the short-term advantage is that these North Carolina small business owners have an increase in demand based on the fact that the cost of goods is either going to go up or the retailer is going to eat it. But they can't compete. It's the same concept with Volvo. If the small business owners can act in an agile way and adjust their pricing architecture, their sourcing, etc. But they have flexibility. So I think that there are equal amounts of advantages as there are disadvantages, both in the short term and in the long term. In the long term, if these tariffs stay, which I don't think that they're going to, you have American businesses that can invest now in things, these North Carolina small businesses, in things like automation, etc., to streamline their processes and make it more efficient for them.
I can tell you there's concerns over reciprocal tariffs. So, if you've got exporters or people that do global business, I think that's a real problem and a real concern in pharma. And like it or not, guys, we're the state of education and medication. So we have got a great deal of biotech here. We do a good bit of manufacturing. So that's another thing that we should keep an eye on. What do you think? I think that's what's making people scared.
So one of the last businesses that I ran for Target while I was there was the over-the-counter pharmaceutical business. And I know the business very well. What I'll tell you is that after 2020, when COVID hit and we had the supply chain crisis that followed, all of your major OTC manufacturers, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson,
Unilever,
now they're called Haleon, used to be GlaxoSmithKline.
Okay.
They started to move manufacturing, not necessarily into the US, but over here onto the North American side of the continent, because we couldn't get things from XYZ. So there were innovations being made, for example, like with psyllium husk, which is used for fiber, like your Metamucil. It's never been grown anywhere except for India. They started moving manufacturing and growth of the plant.
There's a lot of adaptations that have been.
They had to, because COVID triggered this. COVID actually triggered this.
So let me ask, are you saying in some instances that these adaptations are now going to be able to be exploited just by proxy of these tariffs? Now,
I agree with you, Son.
Yes, so they already were. So here's what I'll tell you. They were already diversifying their supply chains. All of these manufacturers lost billions of dollars during the COVID during the COVID supply chain issue. If there aren't goods on the shelf, Procter & Gamble isn't making any money. So they said, we can never let this happen again. We're going to diversify our supply chain. Our supply chains are too diversified today. They're too vast for any tariff from any country, reciprocal or not, to impact the cost of goods in a significant way, because the exact example that I gave you of the cars, Volvo might have a 20% tariff. They can't sell their car for 20% more.
Land Rover, they're not selling them anymore. Here.
Well, but here's the difference. The difference is, Volvo has a plant in South Carolina, North Carolina area, right there in the border. They're going to augment that plant so they don't have to have tariffs.
Exactly.
They're bringing the business here. Mercedes, Honda.
So I'm going to use one more example, and I know this gets so I'm going to be super light, but I think I used this before. You have Colgate or Crest toothpaste, which is owned by Procter & Gamble. They have a factory here in North Carolina that produces Crest toothpaste. They also have, there are only 2 factories in the world that produce it, here in North Carolina and one in Mexico. Now, right now, Mexico does the vast majority of their manufacturing, but they can just as easily add 2 steel buildings, quadruple the amount of lines that they have here in the U.S., and almost entirely, yes, there are going to be new jobs that are brought here, but they can almost entirely, in 90 days' time, do all of their U.S. manufacturing here in the U.S. It's going to cost them a little bit more, but not nearly as much as what it would cost them if they were to produce in Mexico and ship it across the border. So they're just going to do all their U.S. production in the U.S., and they're going to do all of their international production in Mexico.
One last question I have, and then we're going to move to this Tom Tillis brouhaha. The concern is that Mexico and other countries that you mentioned, China for that matter, would say, look, we're going to ride this storm out. 2028, we can make it to 2028. I mean, it's not ideal, but we're going to make it through there and just kind of suffer through. And then it's going to be a whole new world because these tariffs are going to be gone. What's the danger of that?
Well, I would say that if there are foreign leaders who are saying that, they are naive, and they can say what they want to say, but they are not the ones who get to make that decision. It is the manufacturers, and it is the retailers who are here in the U.S. who are going to push the manufacturers to drive down costs, because the retailers are not going to eat. This was my job. I looked Procter & Gamble in the face and said, you're on drugs. I'm not taking your 20% cost increase. I'll take Crest off the shelf, and we'll have 1 box of Crest, and I'll do that in XYZ. The retailer is the one who makes the decisions of what goods end up in front of the consumer.
China is the retailer.
China is the retailer in what sense? Here in the U.S., it's Amazon, Walmart, Target. Let's use those.
I realize that, but everything in China, I mean, the government, there's no, line of demarcation where a business ends or manufacturer ends and the government begins. So that's the concern is if China said, okay, well, and then the retail, that's in countries like that. So
yeah, but I think, and I don't care what they sell in China. I don't think that now Procter & Gamble's, multinational conglomerate may be hit by that.
Correct.
That's
right.
So maybe your 401k takes a hit, with the Procter & Gamble stock, but your everyday, Wall Street's going to take a hit. Main Street isn't necessarily going to take a hit if they move strategically. And I do think that there are equal amounts of advantages as there are disadvantages. But here's what I'd say. In general, and I've said this before, I don't think that this is an attempt to bring manufacturing back to the United States. I do not think the minute that Donald Trump said that the tariffs were going to be reciprocal, a switch flicked in my head. There's no way that the strategy is we're going to use tariffs to bring manufacturing back to the United States if we can make them reciprocal. Okay, the foreign country is just going to very simply drop their tariff and no manufacturing is going to move. The strategy is not to move massive amounts of manufacturing back to the US. It's to drop the trade barrier with foreign countries and allow US businesses to sell foreign into these foreign countries that we could not before. So you have US businesses who are going to skyrocket. So you have, for example, like you have Ford that cannot sell vehicles in Australia right now. It's almost impossible. They have a 6% market share and they're barely holding on to it. While these Chinese car manufacturers have gone from 4% to 22% in the last 4 years. So if we drop that trade barrier, now suddenly Ford can compete in Australia. And if Ford can compete in Australia, what's going to happen to Ford's stock?
Goes up.
Right.
You're opening up
We
massive
want
amounts
these policies to stay. We want these policies to stay, and I hope that they do, so that, you know, companies can forecast. Because I tell you now that the biggest thing is a lot of companies are having a lot of heartburn about how to plan and how to forecast. Very important for companies, whether they're biotech or pharma or
any of them. Your demand planning is excruciatingly important. What I will say is I want to say two more things on this. One, retailers have always front loaded goods in preparation for Chinese New Year, which is when all the factories in China shut down, and it happens from January and February. So we start ordering the goods that we need for Q1 in August, July, August, September. That's when we're placing orders for goods. So it's effectively the exact same thing. You just saw it repeat, which is why you saw a shrink in the GDP growth. It's because we front loaded goods. We said we knew tariffs were going to come in. It's the same thing. The second thing that I want to say, there was an article about, a woman with a wheelchair. She was buying a new wheelchair, and, she purchased a wheelchair, and it was a $3,000 wheelchair because she wanted this wheelchair.
I think it's this one we're talking. Yeah, this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she said she wants to buy a wheelchair, and she bought this wheelchair, and the original price on it was something like, $3,500 of it was tariffs out of the $6,000. So more than double because of these tariffs. First of all, I did my research and I found all of the available wheelchairs that are made in the United States that she could have purchased from. She had an option. She chose to purchase a wheelchair manufacturer in China. And I found the weight and everything. She said, oh, it's light. I can pick it up myself. I pulled the weight. The woman, an 80-year-old woman, could pick this thing up and put it in. $1,500 made here in the USA. So she chose to buy a Chinese manufactured wheelchair.
Well, consumers don't know. Yeah. And I really, right. I get it. And that was, I guess, an NBC News source. So trust it as you will. That's that. So speaking of wheelchairs, somebody just shot themselves in the foot and in the leg. And they are probably in a political wheelchair, and we're going to put them in the hot seat. And we know who that is. It's no other than Tom with an H, Tillis.
Tom Tattoo Tillis.
Have you been keeping up with what's going on with this, Sean? Because this is the number one political story that we have right now.
So I tried to get all caught up. Now I know, he's been a troublemaker for quite some time, but I have not been brought up to speed. So maybe you can give me a quick synopsis on what's happened in the last few days.
Okay. Well, so in other words, I think we've just confirmed that you've been living under a rock, or you've been on the boat.
I've seen some of it, but I haven't double clicked in. I've been busy. I've been trying to get, all these things up and running.
So Trump had to withdraw his candidate for the DC DOJ job, or district attorney job, because Tillis said he would not support it. And in his interview, he said, if he were going in any other area other than DC, I would take it. And I would endorse it. But he has a problem with Ed Martin due to J6, but he didn't have a problem with endorsing Kash Patel and actually doing his opening statement, who also supported J6ers.
Mm-hmm.
But look what he did with Pete Hegseth. Do we all remember that?
Oh, yeah. Last minute, try to hold out, try to act like.
Well, there's an ethics report now because Tillis apparently convinced his sister-in-law to try to tank Hegseth's nomination as well. So it's doing that. It's threatening. It's putting Trump. It's really kicking Trump in the kneecaps for the past, I don't know,
since he's been a president.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, and he's considered one of the most vulnerable incumbents in the 2026 election. Yeah. So, I mean, and all that I will say is this, like, I'll say this. I do not think, given the mandate that we saw in the presidential election, that these anti-Trump establishment rhinos are going to survive.
Well, the problem is right now we don't have a viable candidate that has announced. Now, there's rumors out there. There's rumors that Patrick McHenry may come into the race because he's a former congressman. There's rumors that a current congressman may come in, but no one has stepped up and said they will. We have some candidates, but they don't have fundraising capability at this point.
Well, and this is the problem with the GOP. Is while, you know, the DNC already knows who they're running in 26, 28, 30. They already know. We play this long game of chicken, and let's see what happens, because we can't strategize because nobody can lead the pack. So it's definitely problematic. But and now if we don't have a viable candidate, then I mean,
I just don't think he's going to win. Look, I mean, he's got a lot of scandal, and that's starting to come out again. And actually, there's one where while he was Speaker of the House here in North Carolina, he introduced legislation that would help, get this, trailer parks. Now, you would think that's great. We have a lot of them, except for he would benefit from that. He owns a lot of trailer parks. So introducing legislation that could boost your property's value, that's a textbook conflict of interest problem right there. And it just doesn't stop there. I mean, he's done it with stocks. He's bought and paid for by every pharma group, excellent fundraiser. And I believe the Wall Street donors, the number 1 recipient is Tom Tillis.
One of the top.
Right. And so, you know, that's the thing. I find it hard to believe that he's going to do all of this stuff and try to destroy MAGA's agenda and destroy Trump and think he's going to live to fight another day. I don't know if he's going to run, guys.
No, listen, he got censured and walked out of that, you know, right back in the press room and said, big deal. It doesn't affect me, and had Michael Watley's blessing to go to the RNC, even though his own state had censured him. He was actually Michael Watley's guest. He's that arrogant. That's the thing.
Well, he's going to get censured again. I'm telling you guys, for this, he's going to get censured again, because what he wanted to do, what he's wanted to do all along, is he wants to be the big man in the room and not Trump. And he's done it through this entire nomination process. He has been a stick in his side. I forgot what issue he was grandstanding on about. Who am I going to choke out if this doesn't work? Oh, about the tariffs in a hearing. Literally said to someone, who am I going to choke out if this tariff plan doesn't work? As if he has a lion's share of control in this country.
He also did it during the Mueller reports.
Well, remember, he voted to have the Mueller report and the Russiagate investigation go on for Trump.
Right.
So he's done so many things.
Well, and do you know what I think is grimy? Is simultaneously, this is how you know he's just like, he's a politician, and he's trying to save face, etc. I don't really even know what the word is. I did see, and I remember seeing, he introduced legislation to give I might be wrong about this. You'll have to, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he introduced legislation to give like service dogs to wounded vets or something like that.
Sure, he did.
And
he tried to make that his platform.
Yeah, like he's simultaneously trying, like, it's like, look over here, what I'm doing over here, while I'm simultaneously halting the agenda.
Listen, Sean, let me just catch you. He cannot distract from this. This is nuclear. No. His ass is grass.
Now, I did see, do you know what I did see? Was Trump reacting, I think, in the Oval he was saying something to the effect of like, this is the first that he heard about it, but I can't imagine. I can't imagine, obviously, that he's very happy with them.
I mean, this is what some of the influencers saying. This is what Don Jr. said, which, packs a punch, right? The guy voted for Samantha Powers, who is a horrible and despicable person, for Merrick Garland, who wanted to arrest parents. I mean, look, voted yes for all of Biden.
And bragged about all this, bragged about it.
Oh, yeah. And now that Trump wants his, I mean, on his face, it's so ridiculous that he actually thinks he's going to have a chance on the general ballot. Because I know a lot of Republicans, you can judge them as you will, they're flat out not voting in that election.
So
flat
listen, we're going to go deep into this in about 15 minutes.
We have to go. We have a space at 9:15, and you can go to Margot's. Are you going to be on this with us?
Do you come and
I
show?
will gladly join their space.
Like you have something else better to do. Come on, boy.
I'll go pour myself a bourbon and jump on space. I love that.
Yeah, it's an unveiling of Tom Tillis. We'll see you there in about 14 minutes. If you follow Margot in WNC, you'll be able to see it. If not, I'll be putting it up in just a minute, and I'll send it over to you, Sean, in the chat.
I love it.
We're going to call it Tom Tillis Undressed. And that way people show up. I mean,
the trans Republican. That's what we're going to call it.
He's a trans Republican. He's a tranny. Keep Mike Cernovich away from him. But anyway.
Oh my God. Good night.
Okay. Love you guys. See you in
Love you, Sean.
Let's go.
Bye, friends. Thanks for having me.
That's a wrap on today's NC Political Tea. We hope you're leaving sharper, spicier, and ready to take on the political craziness in the Tar Heel State. If you loved what you heard, or even if it made you mad, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this show with your friends, family, and that one coworker who just needs the truth. Follow us on social media to stay in the loop and get your daily dose of conservative fire. And remember, here in North Carolina, the grassroots grows stronger when we stand together. Until next time, keep the faith, keep up the fight, and don't let the left water down your tea. This is NC Political Tea, where we spill it like it is.